Super Bowl, Super Browns. I like it, brother. I like the mindset. How are things, bud?
Well, that's just an old time saying that we have as fans and on the show. So I don't know if it's the mindset, but it's fun to have fun. I'll say that. At least we got that going for us.
What has it been like the last week? Pre-draft, during draft, post-draft. I mean, it's just so wild. I mean, you're in the center of the NFL. Whether the Travis Hunter trade, the Shedeur Sanders thing, like it's been pretty crazy altogether up there. I bet.
Well, I think that on Thursday night, it was like you kept hearing more and more about them making a trade, and so it was like, all right, they're going to make the trade, and then they made it with the Jaguars, which, they're trying to help out Trevor Lawrence. They're trying to get him set up for some success because they've made a tremendous investment in him, everything else. So it made sense for both sides because I think though that the Browns felt, or at least Browns fans felt after the trade, was that this season was going to be about probably losing and figuring out who we could get at quarterback, whether or not that was going to be. I never thought Arch Manning was going to come out. I still don't think he's going to come out. He could probably stay till 2027 if he wants. So I think that we were kind of thinking who they could get as the best quarterback. Then they went out and they took Dylan Gabriel. Okay, we'll see if Dylan Gabriel has anything, even though that still threw me off. But, I mean, that's a conversation for later in this conversation, I'm sure. And then there was the move with Shedeur Sanders. And I didn't think that they really cared for to take Shedeur Sanders. Then they brought him in, I think probably because it's like, well, he's in the 5th round for crying out loud. We need a quarterback. Though I think they're looking at it, the more the merrier. Like they'll take this year and they'll look at 3 quarterbacks who are young with those 2 and Kenny Pickett. And then maybe Joe Flacco either starts the season or one of those 3 guys play well enough where they could possibly trade Joe Flacco or something like that. Now I got to look at his contract. But that's kind of where they're thinking. So it's in this mode of you have to try to win to satiate your fans. They're not interested in tanking. They've signed on to tanking before, especially because there's no Andrew Luck in the next draft, which there's no Andrew Luck in any draft since Andrew Luck. But I think it was going to be really hard to sell the fans on getting ready for 2026 already at the 2025 draft. So I think they're going to try to do both, and then they're going to try to start the season off by winning, and then eventually, naturally, things will happen, and they will find themselves in a position where they'll probably be looking at draft picks in 2026.
Before we get more into the quarterbacks, Ken, I want to ask you about the trade. Were people upset that they didn't go with Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter there? And what do they think now of going with Mason Graham? Because it's a pretty good consolation prize. If you watch any kind of college football last year, that guy was our game wrecker. And you have him with Myles Garrett, like you could do a lot worse in that spot.
I thought in the moment a lot of people were mad, and they were. And I thought that it would be by the time 6 o'clock came around the next morning, people would be down with the trade. Some did come around, but a lot of them were still upset. I think now that it's all settled in and they kind of did get something fun in Shedeur Sanders, I think that's calmed down a lot of people because I think these last 3 years, I mean, you had Joe Flacco for a moment, and that was fun. But these last 3 years since they got Deshaun Watson have not been fun. There's just been a lot of hot air and empty promises. And it did seem itself like the franchise wasn't even all in on him. So I think a lot of people were just kind of down on him. And they're Browns fans, but they're kind of down on the whole thing. They needed some fun. And Travis Hunter was going to install some fun. So some people were really upset, especially at the stadium at the draft party. But it all in all, I think in the back of everybody's mind, they knew it was the right move. They knew that getting a first-round draft pick for next year, when next year's draft has more quarterbacks, so you have more chances to get it right, I think they knew it was the right move. But it's the same thing as Joe Thomas said it best. Joe Thomas said, you come down on Christmas morning and you open up a box and it's just an IOU for next year. And I thought that was the perfect way to put it. I was jealous of that point. I think that's the way a lot of people felt, but you look at it, it's the right move. It's not fun. Mason Graham is going to be a 10-year football player who I think will be a solid addition to this football team for a long time. And they'll pay him a nice amount of money someday because I think he's going to be a professional and a good football player for this team, and you ain't going to have to worry about him. But defensive tackles don't sell tickets. They don't bring people to the stadium. They don't bring people to your draft parties or anything like that. Travis Hunter would have done that. Travis Hunter's a lot of fun. But then they got Shedeur Sanders, so it doesn't balance out. It doesn't, but it's still kind of fun because he's a star. And already he's in town. There's video of him working out, running to the hills, like he's Walter Payton or something like that here in Cleveland. So it's kind of fun to talk about. I'm thinking, all right, if we aren't going to be good, we might as well have fun. So at least we'll have that going for us, we hope.
And you guys know all about that with Jameis Winston, right? I mean, we had to, if anybody knows that, it's us in the Tampa Bay area. Yeah. I think there's so many different fan bases around the league, Ken, that know like, oh, yeah, we've had the Jameis experience before. That's fun.
But that's been part of the problem, I think, over the last 3 years is that our fun has come from backup quarterbacks. Right, Jameis was supposed to be a backup quarterback. We had fun with Jameis last year. He's a great interview and a great quote and just a lot of fun to be around. Joe was the same way because they were winning football games. That was a lot of fun. And like even before him, like Jacoby Brissett wasn't fun, but like you respected Jacoby Brissett a whole bunch. And so it was anytime somebody not Deshaun Watson was playing for the team, we wanted to have fun. Mm-hmm. Well, now he's not going to be playing for the team. That ship has sailed.
Is it over? Is it over, Ken? Is it over for him?
Yeah, yeah. He'll start the season on IR. They might IR him with some 3-week designation to return, but he's not going to return. And then they'll IR him out for the rest of the year, and then he'll get cut next summer. So he's done. And mistakes were made, and like we say, slightly larger mistakes after that were made. So we got to dig ourselves out of it. That's why they need another first-round pick. You didn't have a first-round pick for 3 years, thinking that he was going to be the reason you didn't need him. And he's the reason you need him now. And so you had to get extra first-round picks. So it's not fun, but it's smarter. And they're going to look at it and go, all right, we got these two guys we're excited about. I think they are. I didn't care for the Dylan Gabriel pick. He's a grown man. He's an adult who I immediately respect. He's not one of these kids who come in and doesn't really know his ass from a hole in the ground when it comes to football, when it comes to what makes the NFL really work. You can tell he loves the game. You can tell you got to take him seriously. But I don't know how great he's going to be, and I still disagreed with the pick. So they're going to give him a shot, Kenny Pickett a shot, whatever's left. I mean, technically he's still a first-round pick, so we'll see. It's only been a couple of years. There's still tread on those tires. And then we'll figure out what to do with Shedeur Sanders. And if any of those three guys work out, then great. They probably won't. They probably won't have enough time to really prove it because there's only 17 games. You got 3 different guys there. We can either have one of those guys work or we can use the pick for a quarterback. If it works, great. Then we'll take 2 guys that are good to help out whoever gets the quarterback spot. But ultimately, it's a situation where we'll see what these guys have, but we'll move to 2026.
What are the chances Shedeur Sanders starts week 1 for the Cleveland Browns? And if it's a 0 chance or a small chance at some point this year?
15 to 25%. Okay. I think Joe would have the majority, where it's like 50% Joe Flacco, and then the rest of them can trade it off any way they want.
So is that week 1 or for the whole year?
Week 1. I think Joe would start week 1 because I think you gotta show the NFL and show the fans and show yourself that you're serious about winning. Because fans are fans. Fans make them tick, but you don't do everything for the fans. But you also got veterans in the locker room. Like you got Joe Bitonio, he's been good for you for over a decade. Right. You got Myles Garrett, who's nearly a decade now, and I know that there was a whole saga there during the offseason. Denzel Ward's been there a long time. David Njoku's been there a long time. And while their histories in Cleveland, none of them have been perfect. Joel's been pretty perfect, but everybody else has not been perfect. It's been a little rocky here and there. You brought Joe Flacco back because it's a guy they do respect. And it's a guy that they can take seriously about trying to win football games instead of what they did in 2016 and 17, which was to not win games. So with the exception of Joel, they could bring in Myles and Denzel and David Njoku and all that stuff. Like they did that for a specific reason. And now I don't think that they can really afford to do that. They can't afford that with themselves, the fan base, and certainly not within their locker room. They lost games this last year because they don't have good quarterback play. Their offense was terrible. And they also don't have the right culture in the locker room. They don't have leadership. And I think that we can't understand that because we didn't play the game. Only they
Right.
truly know what will make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
And you need leadership from the quarterback position to make it work, but you also need leadership from other positions. Well, the other positions, it's just so hard to lead if you don't have a QB. Like, I don't think that Miles is a natural leader. I think he's a naturally great football player, and I think he wants to play good football, and I think he does want to win. But I don't think he's a leader. I think he's dabbled in it here and there. But I think if he had a quarterback that he could trust on the other side, I think he would come off as a better leader.
Right.
I think he would be better that way.
Yeah,
But
he'd be a nice staunch lieutenant for the quarterback. That's the captain, right?
When you don't have that guy that can police the locker room, you're gonna have what they've had. And they've had some nice seasons here and there, but mostly it's been bad. So you got to find guys that care and are also good enough to back it up and stay on the field.
Ken, going through the draft classes, that's what everybody does after the draft. I gotta admit, man, there's some good pieces there for Cleveland. I know because of everything with Travis Hunter and because of all the top shelf stuff everybody's talking about. But getting a couple of running backs, getting another tight end that can play with Njoku, there's some good pieces there. There's some head scratching decisions around the league, but I think there was, kind of, I don't want to say a consensus, but I've seen a lot of favorable draft grades. When you're looking at the Browns, what do you make of some of the other guys? Maybe not, Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, but the pair of running backs, the tight ends, some of those guys that could be nice pieces to build as we go forward with this team.
Well, just because there's history, every Browns fan has a history, and I'm from here, so there's a history. They take Mason Graham. I don't think I'm gonna have to worry about Mason Graham. He's just not gonna be. He'll be a solid player. He may even be second team All Pro. He's not going to be Aaron Donald. So you're not going to buy a bunch of jerseys of Mason Graham. He's going to be a solid player for a while, and hopefully he'll create opportunities for Miles, for Mike Hall, who's coming back from injury, and he had his problems last year, certainly. For Mike Hall, for Isaiah McGuire, who's developing nicely as a defensive end for this team. Hopefully he'll be able to do that. Carson Schlesinger is a guy that I think Carson Schlesinger is a guy who I've learned in 13 years, the type of player I've learned most about, because I had to understand that just because I may not know a lot about the guy doesn't mean he's a bad pick, that these guys are paid to find good players, and you can find good players. I knew a little bit about Christian Kirksey, but I didn't know a lot about Christian Kirksey, and he ended up being a really fine player for this organization. Right. And he finished his career nicely, and he finished his career back in Cleveland. But a guy like Carson Schlesinger, all right, at the beginning of the year, people thought UCLA was going to be garbage, and they were. And it seemed like Deshaun Foster was in over his head from the opening press conference to about halfway through the year. And then they started putting things together, and they finished the year with, I think, a 5-7 record, which isn't great, but certainly, I think 3 more wins than people thought they were going to have. And they finished the season strong. So you start to think, who helped that? Well, from what I know, from what I've learned, he helped that. But if I'm watching UCLA, it's always against somebody else. I'm watching UCLA against Oregon or Arizona State, I'm not watching UCLA or Ohio State. I'm not watching UCLA to watch UCLA to find those players. So I wasn't watching for Carson Schlesinger. But that doesn't mean he's garbage. I just don't know about him.
Right.
So we'll see what he does. With Quinshon Judkins, I really like Quinshon Judkins, but immediately I became nervous because it's either him or Trey Hendrickson. Did we get the right Ohio State running back? It was the same thing. When they took Nick Chubb, it was Nick Chubb or Sony Michel. Browns fans don't want to admit this. There was definitely some Browns fans who were down with Nick Chubb from the beginning. Thank God I was one of the guys. Because you're on the right side of history. Yeah, because there were plenty of people going, we got the wrong Georgia running back. We could have got Sony Michel. We didn't get Sony Michel. We took Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb has a bum knee. Nick Chubb comes in. His first game, they played a preseason game against the Giants. He was wearing number 31. He could not find a hole. Couldn't do it. And we're like, man, this is another. There were people. I'm like, guys, it's the first preseason game. He's another Trent Richardson. Nope.
Oh.
And then I'm telling something. Just he got control of himself. He clicked. He became one of the 3 best running backs in the league for a period of years. Became one of the best running backs in the NFL. I I always am going to be afraid of, like, okay, we got Nick Chubb last time. Are we getting the other side this time? So, and especially because Trent Richardson, Trevion Henderson was taken like 2 picks after.
Right.
Maybe a pick or 2 picks after. We were buzzing about Quinshon Judkins on the air at that time. But he was taken directly after. So we have to watch what they do in New England. We have to watch what we do with Quinshon Judkins. I like him. I think he's a fire plug. Harold Fannon's local. He had a hard childhood that can scare you because you don't want them to be too close to home.
Right.
If they had a hard childhood. But you know what? He went to college at BG, went to college for his entire college career at BG. He didn't transfer. So he's close to home the whole time. So they feel that they can trust him. He seems like a fine young man. Hopefully we can trust him. He's from my hometown. Everybody else, I'll see what Dylan Sampson can do. And then when you get to the quarterbacks, we already talked about the quarterbacks.
I'm excited, man. I think I want to see Cleveland have a sustained success. Just people want to see you guys. We get this in sports where it's like, oh yeah, the franchise you mock, we get it with the Rays all the way down here, Ken, all the time. Like, oh, the poverty franchise and blah, blah, blah. But, sports is all about the times where you're able to kind of round it about. I mean, we had that with the Bucks. I mean, the Bucks were the losingest franchise in the 4 major sports. And then, oh yeah, Tom Brady dropped out of the sky. I don't know if that's going to happen for you guys, but how are things with the Guardians up there?
It's a little bit of a mixed bag.
Yeah.
So last year, because of these TV deals, last year the Twins had to take a haircut. They had to take a $30 million haircut because their TV deal came to an end. And I think that a lot of this is why I think there's actually a chance for a salary cap and a salary floor. They're going to have to pull these teams up by themselves. Mm-hmm. Everybody's going to have to help them because the Pirates ain't going to spend money anytime soon. They play in a beautiful ballpark, and they have the best pitcher in baseball already. The guy's been in the league for basically a calendar year now. They're going to have to pull each other up. So I'm expecting a work strike. That's a long way to say that we took our bath this year with our television contract. So there's deals that can be made and can't be made based on the huge salary dump that we had to have, and we didn't even have that much salary to begin with. So when you have to take such a huge hit, it's going to hurt you. So we're trying to win, but really I think they're trying to tread water as best they can, keep the fans involved, and then we'll figure out afterwards what could possibly happen with a work stoppage. And I still think it's still closer to a pipe dream than it is a reality, but at least it's actually on the docket that the owners are going to have to do something about this. They're going to kill their own sport. They're just going to murder it right in the stream.
So we see it down here all the time.
You think about this, Jay, it's the only sport that's talking about contraction. It's the only sport where you're playing. You guys had an unfortunate situation happen that expedited the process.
Right.
But it's the only sport where you're trying to find ways to put lipstick on a pig about playing in a minor league stadium. The NFL is taking stadiums now, and they're trying to it's becoming cookie cutter, which I don't like, but they're building a bunch of Allegiant stadiums.
Right.
The NBA, they're putting up arenas left and right. They got the Wall out in LA with the Clippers. They're putting up arenas. We just got ours redone. It looks beautiful. It's basically a brand new arena now. In Major League Baseball, well, now we have to figure this out. Now, now we're talking contraction. I mean, who's talking contraction? What sport is talking? Like that's a major red flag. It should be for those owners. So they're going to have to dig in and actually fight the players on this and see if they can't get something done, because I think something needs to be done for the overall health of the game.
Ken, last one from me. Cavs, what a first series for them. And, it's kind of weird how a couple of years ago, you're like, oh man, this team's coming. Last year, it was a little bit of a dip. And now this year, holy smokes, man. What is the key to their success? I mean, obviously Donovan Mitchell is phenomenal, but is it the roster construction? Is it the coaching? Is it just, man, they don't just beat teams. Sometimes they pulverize them. And as a kid that grew up watching Pat Ewing in the mid 90s Knicks, God knows, watching that team, they make everything so hard. They're the relationship where you can never just have a nice night at home with a glass of wine and watch a TV show. The Knicks are they can have all the talent in the world, and they're always going to come down to one shot left on the shot clock. And what's the deal with Cleveland? Are you confident, or is the fan base confident that they can make a deep run here?
Yeah, I think we're confident. I think that we just got to get to the Celtics and see whether or not we're going to be able to match up with them, because
Right.
that's what it comes down to. Like I respect Indiana and all that stuff that you got to say. They should be able to beat Indiana in 5 to 6 games. Should. Crazy things happen, but they should be able to beat Indiana in 5 or 6 games. I think it's because Evan Mobley's gotten better. He's grown into his body physically. I think he's finally been justified as an NBA player now. For him, he's been justified since he got Defensive Player of the Year. Miami wasn't the best test because I think it was just a collection of players playing out the string, and somebody had to get the 8th seed in the Eastern Conference.
Right.
So, hey, but the Cavs are in that right to play against a team that was kind of checked out. Now they play a team that's definitely in emotionally and in physically, and I think they're going to be a heck of a test. They should probably be a 3 seed, but they started out the season so badly. Tyrese Halliburton got hurt. Now I look at them, and I think it's going to be a test, but I still think the real one is going to be Boston, because you're a higher seed than Boston, but I think you're going to go in as an underdog based on the history. So I think that they can push Boston to 7, and if they push it to 7, who wins the game 7? Is it a Jason Tatum or is it a Donovan Mitchell? Like we would always say, like if you get the Cavs to 7 with LeBron, you'll always take LeBron in a game 7.
Right.
So I was nervous in 2016, but I'm like, you're going to take LeBron to win 1 game. That's what you're going to do. And they won that. And I don't know if Donovan's the guy compared to Tatum or Jaylen Brown in a game 7 against Boston. But we got to get there before we talk. But yeah, this is the best team. I never thought I'd see a team this good again after LeBron. And that's a lot of credit to Kobe Altman.
Yeah, I mean, unbelievable. And yeah, you think back you mentioned LeBron, like it's Kyrie Irving that made that big shot in Golden State, man. That is unbelievable. So many different guys being able to step up. Ken Carman, 92.3, The Fan, everything up there in Cleveland on Fox. Make sure you check him out. Browns, download that Odyssey app and catch him every single day. Ken, you're the man. Thank you so much, my friend. Be well. Talk soon, my friend.
Thank you, Jay. Take care, buddy.
You got it, man.